Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover here today, so do me a favor before we dive into today's topics. If you end up enjoying the video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like, and if you are new here to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We're starting here talking all about Concord. We have a bunch of new information to go over as well as previews and getting our first idea of what those who were able to go hands-on with the game have to say about it. First, we're starting with new details regarding the beta. This is coming from the official Concord Twitter account where they post all the information you need to know. They say here's some of what you can expect during the Concord open beta. Play as all 16 free gunners available at launch. Explore and battle across multiple planets and modes. Experience the beginning of the North Star Cruise story. And they put an image here where it says the early access beta is going to start on July 12th and run through to July 14th. You get access or early access to the beta by actually pre-ordering the game. And if you pre-order, you get 5 friend codes. But the open beta begins on July 18th and will run through to July 21st. And when the open beta starts, they're going to have a new map as well as another new game mode that you can try out. But the 4 maps are Free Water, Star Chamber, Water Hazard, and Shock Risk. The 3 game modes are Cargo Run, Clash Point, and Trophy Hunt. And when the open beta begins, they're going to add Bone Mines as a map and Area Control as a game mode. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty, it seems fleshed out beta here where you're going to be able to pretty much get a really good idea of what this game's going to be. So if you're somebody who's maybe like on the fence trying to figure out if it's going to be worth playing or not, you will be able to try it with the open beta. However, I want to talk about the previews for Concord. This is a write-up from Push Square. It says a smattering of hands-on Concord previews have just dropped, giving us more information on Sony's upcoming PS5 shooter. The game's full reveal at the latest State of Play didn't go down very well, with plenty of criticism aimed at its quip-heavy characters and familiar Overwatch-style gameplay. Negative first impressions can be difficult to build upon, but we've been saying for a while now that Concord just needs to prove that it's a fun and engaging video game. Get that right and positive word of mouth should follow, potentially repairing the damage that's been done. With that in mind, these press previews make for an interesting read. Overall, those who got to play the game at a recent event say that Concord definitely has potential as a competitive shooter, but there are apparently some concerns that surround the core experience. Let's start with the good stuff. Previewers generally seem to like the game's personality, and some are quite taken with the title's colorful cast of alien characters. And as alluded, the gunplay is supposed to be nice and satisfying. The gameplay flows another positive point, as the previews highlight fun hero-specific abilities and teamwork opportunities. But some aren't totally sold on Concord's melding of live service structure and character-driven storylines. What's more, concerns are raised over the title's longevity. A 5-on-5 shooter that strives to be competitive simply must hit a home run as soon as it possibly can within the current market, but it obviously is hard to judge something like that until the game's publicly available. And so if we go over some of what the previews are saying, starting with IGN, they say, while I enjoyed my time in the limited hands-on preview overall, I have several concerns for the longevity of Concord and what it has to offer. The problem in Concord, at least in this preview version, is that it takes a little piece from games like Halo and Destiny and mixes them together in a formula that doesn't quite come together for me as of yet. Game Informer says, admittedly, this reveal left me feeling blasé. It looked fine, but not necessarily something I hadn't seen before. However, after playing the game for a few hours during a recent preview event, I'm excited for more of the action. It feels like a mix of Destiny and Overwatch, but I am wary of the team's emphasis on lore and storytelling and if it will pay off in the multiplayer-only format. PC Gamer says, I don't know if it'll be a Helldivers 2 level phenomenon, but if that's the multiplayer hit of the year, Concord could at least be the multiplayer hit of the summer. One thing about Concord that hasn't clicked for me are the characters' personalities. The developers emphasize that despite their fantastical sci-fi backgrounds, they are just regular people. A bit too regular, maybe. It's like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but instead of neurotic eccentrics, we have a guy who likes hot sauce and sentient robots who develop normal personalities. And then finally, VGC says recently, VGC had the chance to spend 3 hours with Concord ahead of its beta release, and while it might not do much for players who've entirely written off hero shooters, its storytelling ambition is truly impressive and could potentially influence the way live service titles tell stories going forward. So this is just a kind of, general roundup of what the previews are saying about Concord, and I will say it's a bit more positive than I maybe would have expected, where, there is positivity surrounding the gameplay, and it sounds like the key word here is maybe potential, right? Those who went hands-on with it are kind of emphasizing that this game seems to definitely have potential, but there are also some negatives and some criticisms where not everybody is necessarily sold on the personality of the game, and they're not sold on the longevity of the game, so on and so forth. So we will be able to judge for ourselves very soon with the open beta, but the final piece of information regarding Concord is the developers confirming that there will be monetization in the game, but only through cosmetics. This is something that I don't think is necessarily surprising. It's a live service game. I think everybody was basically expecting that there will be some form of monetization, but it's nice that they're confirming it's cosmetics only. However, I will say some people might not be okay with this, considering this is a paid game. This is not a free-to-play game. It will cost $40, and yeah, it's always just, it's always a little bit concerning when you hear about that, but if they handle it right, I guess maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But we are going to move on to the next topic, which talks about Sony Bend. This is coming from Push Square. They say Sony Bend's community manager, Kevin McAllister, has apologized to the passionate fan base built around PS4 favorite Days Gone after he feels the community was lent false hope by misleading comments from the studio's former staff members and a deceptive headline from an outlet reporting on those tweets. John Garvin, the former director and writer of Days Gone, responded to queries from the game's community earlier this week and about the possibility of a Days Gone sequel. It's already public knowledge Sony Bend is now working on a new IP, but Garvin responded by saying he and Jeff Ross, also formerly of Sony Bend, had a full outline for a sequel and even intended to turn the series into a trilogy. Garvin claims to have had a script outline, map, and concept art for a pitch before he was let go by Sony. The fact Sony decided not to go ahead with Days Gone 2 and detailed it in a Bloomberg report in 2021, instead opting for the team to work on something new, this is common knowledge amongst the hardcore Days Gone fans. So what John Garvin had to say wasn't particularly surprising. Maybe in a couple of years when the IP is gathering dust and they're sure they're done with it, they'll license it to other developers, but again, not holding my breath, he hopes. However, where the problem lies, and ultimately why the current community manager felt that he needed to apologize, is with a Gaming Bible headline that picked up Garvin's comments, simply read, Days Gone trilogy plans confirmed by developer, suggesting the current Sony Bend staff has more Days Gone titles in production. Community manager Kevin McAllister believes the false hope lent to fans is unfair. And so he tweeted, I apologize to our Days Gone community for continuously getting fed false hope and poor information by people looking for likes. It's not fair to you all. We are currently working on a new IP, and when we have actual news to share, it will come from our studio. So yeah, it's pretty unfortunate to see this kind of happening to Sony Bend, where I could understand their frustration, where you have headlines being written out there that read, quote, Days Gone trilogy plans confirmed by developer, end quote. That is about as misleading as it possibly gets. That is not at all what is going on here. But yeah, for those who have been following, you know that Sony Bend has been working on a new IP for some time. And it's not to say that we'll never see anything happen with Days Gone ever again. Never say never, but at least for the foreseeable future, when it comes to game development, Sony Bend is focused on something else. Moving on to the next topic, we have an update for Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake. And it's something that obviously I'm excited about. I know a lot of you guys are very excited about. And coming from Push Square, it says, in a new episode of the Metal Gear Production Hotline series on YouTube, Konami has revealed a brief look at how the camo and healing systems in Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater are going to work. They've been upgraded over the original. Detailed in the video, both features go significantly more in depth than the PS2 version, with visible marks left on Big Boss's body and clothing. For the camo system specifically, it said that falling leaves will stick to your clothes, crawling through mud, leave stains, and you'll notice tears and bullet holes in your clothing after taking damage. These little details appear in real time based on your gameplay. Then there's the cure mechanic, which in the original game allowed you to treat Big Boss's wounds by applying the right ointments and bandages. This feature has been updated to where even after healing, Big Boss's scars will be left behind on his body. Continuing further into the video, they also talk about the updated controls and the visual filters, and there's a lot of really great details here. I'll obviously have this link down below, so if you want to watch the whole thing, and check it out for yourself, it'll be there. But yeah, it's really cool to be getting these details on Metal Gear Solid Delta. It seems to me that they really have kind of threaded the needle here, right? Where they're maintaining everything that they should, and they're not making any major changes that shouldn't be made, but they're making slight tweaks and upgrades, if you will, that make a lot of sense, right? Like the idea that you'll actually see mud and leaves and stuff sticking to the camo. You'll see kind of tears and holes in the camo from, you know, being in battle, and some of the scars that Big Boss gets will kind of be left on his body. I think that's actually really awesome and a great upgrade to the game overall. But we are going to move to the final topic here, which continues to talk about Konami and Metal Gear Solid. Reported from VGC, Konami's Metal Gear series producer has said it would be the dream for the company to work with Hideo Kojima and other original development staff again. Noriaki Akamura made the comments during a Japanese live stream on Friday with the caveat that he wasn't assuming Konami and his former colleagues would necessarily feel the same way. Kojima split from Konami in 2015 following a mysterious falling out following the conclusion of MGS5. While Kojima still regularly talks about Metal Gear, he no longer has any control over the property. However, it would appear that tensions between the pair may have cooled in the years since. Asked if there was any chance of the original staff members working on Metal Gear again during Friday's live stream, the Konami producer said, "It's not my place to answer on behalf of anyone outside the company or to guess how they might feel about it. But just speaking for myself personally, I'd like nothing better than to work with Mr. Kojima and the rest of the team again. If that could happen, it would be a dream. But people have moved on to new things and new commitments, so that's just our current reality. We can't just take for granted that everyone would work with us again or let ourselves be completely dependent on them." He added, "I just don't think it's right for us to be the ones to make that kind of demand of anyone. So we're working with the expectations that whatever we make, it's up to us. It's on our shoulders to do a good job." So yeah, I thought that this was a really interesting thing. Obviously, we know the falling out between Kojima and Konami was very ugly, but just to kind of, you know, hear this producer who was originally, you know, working with Kojima, just kind of extending that olive branch, just being like, it would be amazing. The fact that, you know, he was able to say this tells me that the current leadership at Konami would also maybe be okay with Kojima being involved, but it's hard to say. You know, Kojima is extremely busy. He's moved on to many new projects, and he's juggling a lot. So, you know, it's one of these things where I would assume Kojima's just fully moved on, but you never know. You know, time goes on, things cool down, and different leadership takes over, and it's hard to say if anything could potentially happen. But there you go. I just thought I would kind of let you know what was being said here from the producer of Metal Gear Solid Delta. But guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.